has officially begun. Macron signs sanctions agreement. The U.S. midterm elections have attracted a lot of international attention in recent times. Before the midterm elections, there was speculation that the Republican Party could take the majority of seats, but the final result was a tie between the two parties, and such a tie is a danger signal for the United States. Because this will lead to more and more intense political conflict in the United States, once it appears, will certainly last until the 2024 presidential election, and now there are signs of such a situation. After the Republicans took back the leadership of the House of Representatives from the Democrats as they wished, they first fired House Speaker Pelosi and then launched an investigation into President Joe Biden and his family. From the current situation, the fierce struggle between the two parties in the United States has become a foregone conclusion. Next, the Republican Party will almost investigate Biden and his family while obstructing the policy agenda set by the Democratic Party, and it can be said that Biden will have a really hard time. However, it is not expected that just when Biden feels anxious because of the internal situation of the United States, French President Macron sings a countertune with Biden's government at this time and carries the anti-American flag alone. According to relevant reports, French President Macron said in the Thai capital Bangkok that more and more countries are forced to choose between China and the United States, which is a huge mistake. Macron believes that countries should compete, but also respect each other's sovereignty, and that leaders should avoid choosing between China and the United States and thus dividing the world. In this regard, Macron also made a very graphic analogy, saying that the countries of the world are in a jungle, and there are two elephants in this jungle, and the relationship between them is getting tense. If the two elephants are so tense that conflict breaks out, it will become a problem for the whole jungle, so the animals in the jungle will have to cooperate. Macron wants to relaunch France's Indo-Pacific strategy to stabilize the Indo-Pacific region. Macron also stressed that France does not believe in hegemony, nor in confrontation, but in stability. Therefore, China and the United States should end the confrontation in order to maintain the stability and balance of the global situation. Who is that hegemony, and who caused the standoff between China and the United States? Obviously not China, this clear-eyed people can see very clearly. However, Macron's stance is still somewhat surprising, bearing in mind that France and Germany are important allies of the United States in Europe, and the United States has been advocating decoupling from China for the past 2 years, while also requiring its allies to choose between China and the United States. France, as a European leader, has previously cooperated a lot with the United States on this matter, but now openly come out and openly express their opposition to hegemony and to choosing sides, which means that France does not want to become a vassal of the United States and wants to start doing something practical that is conducive to France's independence and autonomy. France has always stressed independence. Now see the gradual decline of the United States into internal strife, so the rebellious heart want to break away from U.S. control is also very normal thing. In addition, the Russian-Ukrainian conflict that lasted for more than 9 months this year also deepened the rift between the United States and Europe, although the United States did not use a single soldier, but the Europeans stirred up the dogs. Energy prices continue to rise, so that the EU countries into an unprecedented crisis. The United States took the opportunity to make a fortune in war. Not long ago Macron publicly criticized the U.S. double standard, saying that the United States should not sell high-priced natural gas to Europe. It can be said that a war in Ukraine, so that the EU suffered a great internal injury. Countries on the United States of America's dissatisfaction is also escalating. Macron has taken the lead in carrying the anti-American flag. It is foreseeable that there will be other countries joining it. After all, the world has been suffering from the United States for a long time. On November 21, French President Macron pulled together 49 European business executives for dinner, calling on these companies not to move to the United States, stay and invest in Europe. The lineup of executives attending the dinner can be described as luxurious, including the European telecommunications giant Orange, Ericsson, as well as Unilever, Volvo, and other well-known companies' CEO and chairman. No word yet on what Macron said to these executives, but persuading them to stay must be a top priority. Macron organized such a lavish lineup to counter the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act. The bill aims to attract companies to invest in factories in the U.S., especially electric cars made in the U.S., which will receive a $7,500 tax credit from the U.S. government. In the EU's view, this is the U.S. scraping Europe strategy. If the United States succeeded, European industry in the energy crisis and trade protection measures under the double blow will face the end. Even if European energy prices have recently fallen, natural gas prices are still 5 times higher than in North America. Compared with the United States, Europe's environment is inherently lost in the starting line. Therefore, in recent times, there have been many European officials issued a warning. The EU also accused the United States of violating the rules of the World Trade Organization. German officials claim that the U.S. bill is a dangerous signal and that the U.S. approach could trigger a huge tariff war. The EU electric car production accounted for 25% of the world, the supply of 20% of the world, although not much, but because of the European car brand effect is strong, the competitiveness should not be underestimated, not to mention the United States in this regard more crotch. The United States electric car production accounted for only 10% of the world, battery capacity accounted for only 7% of the world. If the European car companies to invest in the United States, or gradually transfer the production line to the United States, the Biden administration will be able to achieve the purpose of strengthening the key industrial chain of the United States. It can be said that wherever the world's problems, the United States out of the field, France will be followed by their own anti-American declaration. After talking about the root cause of the problem, let's talk about another reason for the Sino-American discord. The United States is not tolerated by France's hegemonic ideas. Let's say the U.S. hegemonic ideology, in fact, in the world is definitely not only dissatisfied with France, but really because of this and the United States of America, but only one country, France. France as an old capitalist country, in the face of only 100 years of history of the United States. That is a kind of non-French people cannot appreciate the contempt. In their view, they are the aristocracy. And the United States is a unilateralist, to the country's own interests first of all, the thuggish country. This country is actually not worthy of virtue, so the French despise the Americans and then. In addition, French diplomacy in international relations has always been to uphold human rights, equality, justice, sovereignty and so on, which are both traditional and sovereignty, and considers itself the most authentic and resolute defender of these values. That is why the Americans ignore the interests and positions of other countries, including their traditional allies in Europe, in their international relations. France is particularly indignant when the Americans ignore the values or particularities of other countries and nations in their international relations. France does not want to become a vassal of the United States, which is why it was the first European country to establish diplomatic relations with China. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Let's finish talking about the reasons why France has the audacity to go against the United States, and also take a look at why France has so much courage. First of all, we have said at the beginning that France is an old capitalist country. In terms of heritage, I do not know how much stronger than the United States. In fact, France's military power is not bad. As we have said, France and the United States have been in conflict since World War II, so as early as that time. France has been secretly engaged in military, planning to get rid of the United States.